Okay. How this is with the 3. Currently, it is September the 4th, 2025. Okay, I guess this is part 2 of the video. Pretty much, I guess I want to talk about the second eclipse because I think in the first video I talked about the first. But I was alluding to pretty much just Trump's Uranus return and the United States Uranus return. And so let's see here. Should I talk about that? Anyway, Trump's Uranus return. It will happen on, I believe, August 14th, 2029, November 2nd, 2029, and May 27th, 2030. And I guess, are these Senate races? Anyway, let's see here. But in regards to the recent or current dates, Trump will also have his have transiting Jupiter conjoin his natal Saturn, and it will happen on October 13th, 2025, December 10th, 2025, and May 30th, 2026. And not to also forget to mention that, well, it's also a long time from now. So I'm talking about his Saturn return, Donald Trump's Saturn return. It happens on July 8th, 2034. And I've heard that 2032 is supposed to be a big year. So I'm like, I just wrote it down saying that, just consider it. Consider something. Anyway, so the second eclipse. It will happen on September 21st, 2025, at 2:53 p.m. And I wrote in my notes, it's too much to read or too much to write down on there. So I guess I'm going to try to use my phone. Or this phone. See, this works. Yep. Okay. So what I first noticed for the second eclipse in regards to Donald Trump is transiting Venus is going to be conjunct his ascendant. And so that means a 10th house influence on his image. And not only that, transiting Uranus inside of his 10th house, so it's shocking. But Rahu's there. Not Rahu, but Ketu's there. But that's inside of his, under the influence of his second lord, but under the influence of his first house. So let's see here. And the eclipse is inside of his second house. So let's see here. Let me pause for a second. Okay, I don't know where I stopped at. I took a little break. But anyway, I think I probably stopped at Uranus being inside of Donald Trump's 10th house. And see, not only that, for Donald Trump, looking at his 8th house, transiting Saturn and K2 are transiting his 8th house. And looking at the rulership book, in regards to astrology, you got, I think it's by Jesus. Let me pause for a second to get the right name. Okay. The author of the book is Rex E. Bills. The rulership book. So, but according to this, the rulership book, by Rex E. Bills, it states that pretty much Saturn, transiting Saturn, or Saturn in general, it rules the Democratic Party. And so, with Neptune conjuncted, it could be a loss for the Democratic Party. And something shocking, because in the 10th house, you have Uranus. And then also on Trump's ascendant, you have transiting Venus. And that rules his 10th house. And the eclipse is inside of his second house. Who knows? He might lose some money. Maybe somebody made a bet with him about my prediction. And it can't be true. Anyway, let me stop. Not that important. Yet. Let me stop. This looks bad in regards to Donald Trump's opponents. So, even though K2 is inside of on his ascendant, in Leo, which could affect him later on. The earlier lunar eclipse, making that aspect of Pluto on the side of his fourth house, with the K2, with the hidden enemies being lost. Like, let me see about Capricorn. Where is Saturn? Yeah. Donald Trump's sixth lord, which is Saturn, is conjunct Neptune, and it's in the eighth house. They're going through hell right now, major ups and downs, because his ascendant, his sixth house ruler is the sixth lord. Not only that, transiting Jupiter is conjoining his natal Saturn, which was the sixth house. And so, you know, Jupiter and Saturn are pretty much, I believe, enemies, right? But overall, Jupiter causes losses for Saturn because it is 12 signs and houses away from 10, because 9, 10. So it's a loss for the Democratic Party. It's said multiple times. I'm trying to see, not only because there's so much stuff here that shows that something devastating, not bad, devastating, what happened to the Democratic Party. However, like I said, Donald Trump would not be too happy about the midterm elections. However, the presidential election, it may go in his favor, some way, somehow. But 2026, no. I mean, I'm not gonna say no. Maybe whatever is going on inside of the astrology, inside of his chart, might be a stomach virus. But then again, in Bill Clinton's chart, it shows like a loss for his opponents or something like that. So I don't in 2026, but 2028, all I know is that craziness also, because shocking craziness because of the United States Uranus return, Donald Trump's Uranus return, and that just keeps on going. And in regards to people who are hoping that Donald Trump's going to die, I can't predict death. I cannot. But if I could predict death, since apparently all my other predictions have come true so far, it would be a long, long time away from now. I said, what would it be? He would die the perfect death, first of all. Unlike Betty White, because I think Betty White, she died before her birthday, I think, or something like that. But Betty White has my heart, and my condolences in her family. But for Donald Trump, the only thing that may kill him, that may cause his death, is possibly his Saturn return, which happens on July 8th, 2034. And imagine, he dies days after celebrating the 4th of July, and they had one of the biggest celebrations you can even imagine. On July 8th, 2034. He'll be 88 years old. So for everybody hoping that Donald Trump's going to die, you got a few more years. But I mean, I can't predict that. But since I'm on a roll, why not try? And let me explain why. I've already explained why in regards to the Saturn return. But I'm going back to when Jupiter will conjoin Donald Trump's natal Saturn. Where is it? Let me pause for a second. But yes, Jupiter will conjoin Saturn, or Donald Trump's natal Saturn, on October 13, 2025, December 10, 2025, May 30th, 2026. And his Saturn return is in until July 8th, 2034. However, Donald Trump could pass away before then, because if everything I'm saying is right and I become famous or whatever, pretty much I have a nodal return. And I do know that pretty much I have K2 inside of the 10th house. So I could be wrong about something. I can probably make a freak ton of good predictions. And then next thing you know, something that everybody hoped for goes catastrophically wrong. So I'm not sticking to anything that... All I can do is stick to the dates and say that something may happen around those dates. That's all I can do. Anyway, so that's the second eclipse, right? Okay, and lastly, in regards to Bill Clinton, because I first made the first Eclipse video about Bill Clinton. I said pretty much if you didn't watch it and you're watching these for some reason, I said pretty much stick a fork in him. He's done. That's it. There's a point of like you were saying anything else. But if you want more context, watch the video that I made about Bill Clinton. But what I forgot to mention also is that during I believe the first eclipse in regards to Bill Clinton, let me double check. Let me pause for a second. Okay, but in my last video about Bill Clinton, I forgot to mention that in regards to the September 7th eclipse, that transiting Mars will quincunx his natal moon. So not only is Jupiter aspecting his natal 8th house moon, but transiting Mars is aspecting his natal 8th house moon. And I believe transiting Mars will be on Bill Clinton's ascendant. And I think Jupiter's transiting his 10th house. And then you see what's going on inside Donald Trump's chart, as I said previously. Anyway, and they're saying that Donald Trump is going to, well, I don't know. Just listen to whatever James Comey says. I guess that's bye for now for this video. I think I'm going to go look at a few other notes that I've written down and make one last video. So that's it for now.